remember when Bushy did his version of a squidgy? The stiffy G-spot?
Hello everyone, welcome to the Deep Drop for another episode. The Deep Drop, what is it? It's a great question actually. Adam, what is it?
It's just questions. We're just thinking of all these weird questions we ask each other when we sit around catching nothing. So we thought, why not try and answer them, Luke? Why not try and answer them?
Why not? Why not? Great idea for a podcast. I'm Luke McCredden, that's Adam Ring. Let's get into it.
Howdy legends, long-time listener, first-time caller here, loving the potty. Do we still need a closed season for trout?
Ooh, okay. Do we still need a closed season for trout? Well, I mean, firstly, Adam, you and I love a bit of trout fishing down here in Victoria. In particular, it's an interesting question. It's something that I'm not a scientist on, but however, I do know that we've got some great people behind the scenes, Victorian Fisheries Authority, who are right across this. So there's a lot to dive into with this, but I suppose ultimately my opinion with this would be that if the current program that is in place with having a closed season is showing positive results, then yeah, I think we do. Well, I think we leave it. You know what I mean? I don't think mess around with it too much if there's no real need to. So I'm okay with it, but prove me wrong. I mean, is there a reason that maybe we should ditch the closed season ads?
Well, this is a great question, and one of those ones that probably opens up about half a dozen more questions on top of it. Because it is quite a... Whenever you talk about closed seasons, it's a complex issue, because essentially you're telling anglers, especially for those in Victoria, because we have to pay for a fishing license, you're telling them that we cannot fish for something. So there's a million and one reasons why there would be a closed season for many species. Trout, there's been one for a long time. And I've heard a lot of valid reasons why we would open the trout season. I think drought this is hard too. I guess in my time paying attention to recreational fishing on a deeper level than just going fishing, I think drought was the biggest killer of everything. Yep. Everything was hard during the drought, whether it was saltwater, freshwater, everything. Now, as we record this podcast, Luke, 3/4 or half of Victoria is actually underwater.
Yep.
So there's all these different things, and the biggest pushback we would get from saying that we should leave it as having a closed season is, well, if we're closing the season just for the trout to spawn, why don't we have a snapper closed season?
Well,
snapper come into Port Phillip Bay to spawn at around this time of year. Why should we fish for them, but we're not allowed to fish for trout?
Well, I don't want to give too much away, Ads, but I know there is that exact question in an upcoming episode of the Deep Drop, and I'm looking forward to that because I think there's all sorts that could come from that too. But you're exactly right. It does. It lends itself to asking the question of, do we need a closed season for other species? So, yeah.
So I understand it from all those angles, but I still do believe that we should keep a closed season for trout to spawn. And I don't know if it's the right or wrong answer, but I've got a specific reason why I think it should stay closed.
Yep.
And that's because during a trout spawning run, they're very, very easy to get in illegal ways. So you can go up to the high country, right, and see spawning trout cruising upriver in water no deeper than 6 inches.
Yeah.
And they are so unbelievably honed in on what they're doing.
Yeah.
They don't know that anything's around, let alone a person.
You go pick them up.
And we can pick them up, you can net them. There's been cases of people using pitchforks just to get them. Just unrealistic and stupid ways. So I think the closed season is probably not a bad thing, because from what I understand, spawning seasons the last few years have been pretty good because we've had water.
Yes. Yep.
So it's a lot of environmental factors. It's not just closed because overfishing.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one, and the only reason I say yes, I think we should keep a closed season is because those trout are so unbelievably vulnerable because of the conditions that they do spawn in, and the track they have to take to get to that to even spawn at all. I'd happy to see this one hang around.
Yeah, it's actually a great point, and it's actually a good enough reason just on its own, just to leave it the way it is. But I think it can't hurt to review it. I think it's always good to review anything you do in anything. So it's worth having a look at. But as you say, there's so many factors that impact it. It's got to be hard to try and change it. It'd almost be a floating, change. If you're really looking at changing every season, that every year there's something different. There might be more rainfall than the last year, or there might be less, or there might be, whatever it is. So across the board, I can't say it's not doing any damage. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure, and I think that's just part of having a good fisheries management team, an organisation, that they would review these things. And even if they were to change rules, that rule change is monitored and reported on X amount of years down the track, because I think it's a hell of a lot harder to try and bring a really depleted and struggling fishery back than it is to maintain a good one.
Flipping that a little bit in terms of a real positive, I think that one thing every single year, which is great, is the excitement of an upcoming open season. You know what I mean? So whether you're in the tackle industry, which we've been involved in for years and years and years, or even from just any sort of part of the industry itself, there's always a real buzz. And rec anglers across the state will tell you the same thing. It's exciting. It's usually Father's Day weekend, or and you start planning for it. You get into the shops and you start checking out the new lures that are available. You start planning on where you're going to go and what's happening. I think that's a really cool thing just in itself. It works as a bit of a. It's probably not a bad thing for the economy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There's campgrounds and camping gear, and there's obviously all the fishing gear, and there's some travel. So, there's that element of it too that I quite like. I think it's kind of cool. It's got a little excitement to it, which I don't mind either.
Yeah, it's definitely a factor that's got to go into it. Luke, I know you did a little bit of background research on this topic, and it is quite hard to see any data, I guess. I know Talk Wild Trout Conference has been a thing. It had a little COVID break, as did everything else in the world. But I have been to a Talk Wild Trout Conference quite a few years ago, and they do. There is information out there on. They grade the health of the rivers. They show surveys from, the amount of wild fish as opposed to stocked fish.
Yep.
They do have all that data, and it is something that they're constantly working on. That information is out there. It's just a bit hard to sift through all the stuff on the internet to try and find any, solid stuff on it. But it's everything should always be reviewed.
Definitely.
But I think for this one, I'm not jumping to a quick decision to say the trout fishing's good. There's plenty of water. Leave it open 24/7. Don't know if I'm there yet.
So do we still need a closed season for trout? You're saying yes?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm saying yes.
Yeah. Love to hear everyone's thoughts, though, because that is a really complex question, and there's a hell of a lot of other anglers out there that do a hell of a lot more trout fishing than I do.
Yeah.
That would have some unbelievably good and personal opinions on why we should keep it closed or why we should open it. So I'd love to hear all of those arguments. It's a great discussion topic.
That's a great one. Instagram's the best place to do that. Find the tile that's on there about, do we need a closed season for trout? Let us know. As you said, Ads, there'll be people out there who have a very strong opinion on this, and there's no right or wrong. We just want to hear them. So let us know. Yep. Let us know.
Boys, I want to know, have squid jigs gone too far?
I don't think squid jigs have gone far enough, Luke.
There's not enough.
So what we mean by this question, have squid jigs gone too far? We've obviously seen the squid jig revolution. Luke, you and I lived through it. We worked through it. We saw squid jigs go from, $4 for $10 in a dump bin to $40 for one
each. Yeah.
And everything in between. So we've seen the trend explode. We've seen it level it out. And we've seen now that it's just a part of recreational fishing. If you fish, you own a squid jig. It's just a rite of passage now. And I don't think they've gone too far. I think we've seen the ebbs and flows. I think a squid jig above $20 to $23 is maybe not as relevant as it was 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
$20 seems to be about that sweet spot where you get a really good quality jig that just works.
For sure.
But I think it's still got more to go. I do. I don't know what it is.
Where? What direction and what area? I mean, elaborate.
Well, the big thing we're going to see different. We're going to see different techniques, which means there's specific squid jigs that they exist. Just haven't made their way to Australia yet in any great capacity. Like you jump on a Japanese site that just does squid jigs. There's squid jigs for vertical dropping squid. There's squid jigs for casting in shallow water, deep water, mid water, tidal water. There is literally like jigs for drop shotting. Any sort of scenario you can think of where there would be a calamari, they have a specific way of catching it. And I've seen some of these weird and wonderful squid jigs, and some of them do exist in Australia, but it's whether we get to the point where we care that much, that we want to go into that much detail to catch them. That could be the issue.
And to follow on from that too, the issue that I would have with that now is that I think we've realised we don't need that much technology. So like you mentioned 7 or 8 years ago, there was a big bloody hoo-ha about squid jigs. And I'm not going to lie, I'm just going to be honest because it's the deep drop. We're honest here. I never got my head around it. I couldn't understand why anyone in their right mind would pay more than... And, mate, we were selling... Like, we're in the tackle industry. Like, this is what we do. But I might get in trouble for this. I don't know. But why would you spend more than $20 on a squid? Why would you spend more than $15 on a squid jig? Like, I get it. It's the whole fashion of it. There was excitement around it. There was brands with great packaging that, that was hyped up from Japan or wherever it might have been. But there was never an issue when I was a little kid using what I think might have been a Yorizuri squid jig, which came in 3 colours and 3 colours only and probably only 2 sizes. There was no issue then catching squid. So it's not like it... Look, don't get me wrong. The materials and the actual construction of the jigs, obviously they're a million times better than what they were. They look fantastic and they hold up a lot better. I do remember you'd go through jigs a bit because the cloth would tear off pretty easily and, the hooks would pull out sometimes and whatever. So I get that. But the idea of the market having squid jigs up to $50, like what? Crazy. Anyway, I don't know. Like I embrace it. I love it. I own way too many squid jigs myself. You know this. Like you're the same. Yeah. You're a sucker.
Yeah. 100%.
We do, but it's like, okay, have they gone too far, or are they very nearly going too far? I don't want to be a downer because it's great. I love it. You know how much I love lures in general. Yeah. I have more than I'll ever use, but
yeah.
But I mean, there's probably, is it fair to say there's at least 20 brands in Australia, in the Australian market of squid jigs?
There's probably more. I wouldn't even, because it got so unbelievably popular that there was squid jigs coming from everywhere. There was backyarders importing their own squid jigs from overseas. Yeah. So there's no shortage of jigs. I guess I'm sort of a bit of a sucker too to see how far it can actually be taken. Yeah. Like what's there that I haven't seen yet?
Well, I guess back to the point too about when you were initially what I was getting at before I got too worked up about the $50 squid jigs. The technology that could come into the market now probably should have come in 10 years ago, or 7 or 8 years ago, when it was really hyped and exciting, and people might think, oh yeah, I need a one for fast tide and particular current flows and depths and all that. Now it's kind of like, okay, well, we can get them on what we've got. We don't need to get too fancy. I mean, the fanciest there is now is like a deep version, so it's an extra weight in the head or something, and that's about as fancy as it. And when I say fancy, it's about as technical as it gets. You can get little droppers for little weights on chin weights and things like that. So I think across the board, South Australia is massive over there. WA, Victoria, it's huge, obviously. New South Wales, I don't think there's anywhere that thinks we could be catching more if we had more technology. I think we've got them. Do you know what I mean?
And you know what? You're probably right. But a few years ago now, a squid jig came out with a mirror in it.
Yep.
So basically, a mirror that's attached inside the squid jig with 2 springs, and every time there's any sort of movement, this little holographic mirror is just flashing light everywhere. I love it. I love it. Does it catch more squid? I don't know. Probably.
Another example of that was Yamashita brought out, I can't remember what it was called, but it had like a rattle in it that imitated the tone. The tone that the rattle rattled at was that of a bait fish or something in the water.
Yeah.
Amazing. It looked great technology. Yeah. Did it take off as far as everyone needed one? No.
We'll even have a look at Yamashita now, like a heat-sensitive cloth. That's standard range. Like that's standard range Yamashita lives. But do you remember way back when my all-time favorite was, remember when Bushy did his version of a squid jig?
No.
The stiffy G-spot. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
You know how Bushy had his stiffy lures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bushy was great with a stiffy.
Yeah. there was a squid jig that had a button on the side that when you pushed it, like a red strobe would go off, and it was called a G-spot. That's great.
I love that. I love that so much. I wonder if Bushy's got any of his stiffies lying around.
Oh, he'd have some. Yeah,
I wonder if we can get him on. I'm going to send him a message after tonight's recording and see if he wants to come on. He doesn't do much in the media space anymore, Bushy. And last time I spoke to him, he said not interested. But I'd love to hear about his. I'd love to hear about his stiffies.
Yeah, and his G-spot.
But you know what? It's so funny though. Me sitting here saying we don't need that. You talk about Yamashita. I'm holding him up, that business. I tell you what, I've got that many of their jigs because you know what? I go to a tackle show. I'm fortunate enough to be in that space where we get to see it all firsthand. And I'm like, I don't care if anyone buys this stuff. I'm buying it.
Yeah.
It's so good. Anyway, look, having said all of that, I kind of would like to see someone try and reinvent the wheel. Why not? Like,
why
if
not?
There's something else out there that, again, I don't think we need it, but why not?
We need it.
It so I don't know. I'm kind of gone full circle with this. Have squid jigs gone too far? You said not. You've said not far enough.
No, because it sounded as though at the start of this segment you were leaning towards they've gone way too far. I'm done with it.
Just to round this out, have you got what's your top couple that you go to? Top 2 or 3?
Oh.
Question without notice, but give us it.
It's hard because there's been so many go-tos that never stopped working. It's just it's almost like they fell out of fashion.
Yes,
it's weird.
Yeah,
because it all started with the brown and gold Hayabusa.
Yeah,
back in the day.
Yeah,
and it all exploded, and then there was a Haramitsu in AR color, and then we went into the days of the Shimano Cephia 14T. Or white, 14T.
I'll have a couple of cartons of them, thanks, Joe. Oh,
so no, we've been through the whole lot, and then there was the revolution of the straight black jig.
Yes, yeah,
like a Yamashita Sudar, like they're just base range, like $15 jig, but just in that straight black.
Yeah.
That went nuts for a
Actually,
little
you know what there was? I don't know if it's still out. Yozuri, or it may have been under the Jewel brand, did like a shrimp and it had legs. Do you remember that? They were real high.
Still around.
Still around.
Jewel.
It was Jewel, was it? Yeah. They worked all right.
Yeah, and they sort of had sentimental value for me because remember you were talking about the old squid jigs that you bought. The first half-decent squid jig I ever bought was the Yozuri Shrimp Hunter. Remember that?
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Only a couple of colours. Probably caught more squid on that than anything.
Yeah.
But then before that, and up until only very recently, I don't think they're still around now, but remember the old Jarvis Walker Razorbacks?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, mate. You walk within 10 feet of that thing and it's going to hook you.
I was going to say, did they have
It had
coming out the back
just
of them
points
and shit?
everywhere. Yeah.
All right. So have squid jigs gone too far, Adam?
No, definitely not. They need to go further. I want to see it.
I started this topic thinking, come on, they've gone too far. You know where I'm at now?
Bring them on.
Fuck it, give me more.
Yeah, I want to see a stiffy Razorback G-spot in black.
Bring it on. More squid jigs, please.
Now, we all love fishing, but is catching a fish simply a bonus at the end of the day?
Is catching a fish a bonus? I mean, it's the thing that we've heard for years, especially when we were kids. I feel like that was drilled into you, but mate, we're having a great day catching a fish. It's just a bonus. I don't think it is. I think the end game is to catch a fish, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, I think, fishing is a great, I suppose, vehicle, so to speak, to see lots of great things and go to great places and meet good people. But to catch a fish isn't the bonus. That's what you're there to do. Am I down the right track there, Hads?
No, you're spot on. So is catching a fish a bonus? Every time you hear someone say, oh, this is just unbelievable, it's beautiful out here, catching a fish is just a bonus. Do you know what it means? They've caught fuck all. That's what it means.
Yes. I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah. Catching a fish isn't a bonus. It could be the most beautiful day of all time. Cruising around, not a breath of wind, sun's out, not a cloud in the sky, shorts and t-shirt, comfortable, loving it. If I catch nothing, I'm pissed.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's not a bonus. It's the point.
That's what you're there to do.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no ifs and buts. It's a funny one now because you're the same with young kids. It's really important that we try and educate around the fact that we're not. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't catch a fish every time. Like, try and appreciate the moment. Try and enjoy the fact that you're outdoors and you're getting your hands dirty and you're trying to catch a fish and that. But at the same time, you're also like, no, I'm not here for a picnic, mate.
Yeah, exactly. And then when the kids, but this is where fishing is the best hobby of all time because there's just a little saying for everything. And when you're sitting down there on the bank and it's not going your way and you start the whole catching a fish as a bonus to the kids and they're sitting there going, oh, how come we haven't caught anything? And then, then you just give them a little nudge and say, that's why they call it fishing, not catching. Like, it's just all part of it.
Oh my God. That's such a great, I know. I try and make sure that doesn't even matter if it's with kids, with anyone. You just want to have fun, and it is fun. And you and I, God, we fished together for years and years and years, and the amount of times we've not really caught what we're intending on catching is probably endless. So so you always have you find a way to make it fun. Like, it's always fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's always something happens and a story out of it, which is what it's all about. But at the end of the day, you're there to catch a fish, mate.
Oh, never once have we sat back at the end of a tough day going, oh, well, you know what? Catching a fish would have been a bonus today.
Well, I think the good example of that is the fact that we're still friends, because I think if you sat back in your deck chair and cracked a tinny and said, oh, well, you know what, Luke? Don't worry about it, mate, because catching a fish is just a bonus. I would have packed up my swag, thrown it in the car and said, I'm going home and don't ever call me to go fishing again.
It's right. We sit back and crack a can and wallow in a self-pity if not caught anything that day.
Well, I think the conversation's more along the lines of, we are shit.
Yeah. Or thinking of all the other reasons why we didn't catch anything. Like, I knew it was going to be tough today, Luke. It's full moon.
Yeah. Well, why'd you invite me out here, dickhead?
Yeah. Well, we have day jobs, so, we can only fish when it suits us. We can't plan our fishing around the conditions. I love fishing. That's the best. There's an excuse for everything.
Mate, there's an excuse for absolutely everything, and there's so many reasons to love it. And, I don't think we need to pull this apart much further, mate. I think the old line of that's just a bonus. Nah, pull your head in, understand what it's about.
And shout out to the listeners. I not only want to hear the best catching a fish as a bonus sort of quote, but I want to know what your favourite fishing quote is. Is it catching a fish as a bonus? Or, is it that's why they call it fishing, not catching? Or, we didn't catch anything because it's a full moon. Like, tell us your greatest, just what's the go-to excuse?
That's magnificent. Please do. I would love to hear them all. Instagram's the best place to do that, ads, and find the deep drop wherever you're scrolling through. If you're having a bit of a night just sitting around on the couch doing nothing, jump on the deep drop. Go back through some of the questions we've asked over the last few episodes and have your say, because we still go back and have a look at all of them, ads. It's great. We love it. We love every bit of it. So get involved. And a big shout out to our question asker for this episode, who is Andy Smith from Ebb Tide Tackle. You can get over and check out all the premium and boutique fishing products Ebb Tide Tackle have to offer. Andy also is the host of the podcast The Outflow, which you can check out as well. And thank you, everyone, for listening to The Deep Drop. Once again, we've had an absolute ball, and I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed listening. And if you have, make sure you subscribed, because you know what? It's free. Subscribe for free, and then you get notifications every time a new episode gets released. And tell your friends too. Tell your friends to, hey, check out this podcast. It's pretty fun. It's called The Deep Drop. The boys talk a fair bit of rubbish, but they give us their answers and opinions on all sorts of different questions. And that's going to continue, Adam, long into the future, I think, mate.
Yeah, there's no shortage of questions to be answered, Luke. And, if you have a question out there, feel free to hit us up. Leave what your question would be, and we'll do our best to tackle it, because this great hobby that we call fishing, Luke, has 1,000,001 different questions associated with it, and that's what makes it so good.
It couldn't be more correct. Never been a truer word spoken, young Adam. And you know what? This is just so much fun, and sometimes I just think catching a fish is just a bonus, ads.
And that is our last podcast ever, because I'm out.